Hello, this is Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments, YouTube. Bob Gray Sr. Go there and subscribe if you haven't. Then you could look at it and watch it, listen to it at your own leisure. Or you can go to solvechurchproblems.com and subscribe there. And there's more to it than just this broadcast there, and a lot of helpful things there, practical things to be of help to you. And then Ministry Moments podcast. Go to your favorite podcast provider and you'll be able to see us there and be able to catch it every Friday, 3:00 Central Time, Ministry Moments. I don't claim to have the answers to everything, but a guy ought to learn something after 77 years of life, hasn't he? Or 50 years in the ministry. So today I want to talk to you about leadership. We're woefully lacking, aren't we? I wish I could transport you back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s. I wish I could just transport you back. It was the real deal. Tom Malone, 5,000. Curtis Hudson, the largest church in Georgia. All because of Dr. Rice, Dr. Hiles, Dr. Robertson, Dr. Lee Robertson, 10,000, run 10,000. Chattanooga church doesn't even exist now. Tom Malone's church doesn't exist now. Curtis Hudson's church doesn't exist now. And so many others that I could be great leaders and provided leadership. Oh, I remember the Cobalt Hall meeting, sword meeting there. I remember Indianapolis meeting, 20,000 in attendance. I remember Dallas Convention Center. Oh, so many. And God met. And those men, I preached for them. They preached for me. I preached with them. And it was a blessing. They were the real deal. Great men of God and had great works. But boy, you could walk into one of their churches and just touch the Holy Spirit. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And they weren't the only ones. There were Jack Hudson doesn't get as much credit as he ought to get. And there's others. Dallas Billington ran 9,000 in Sunday school in 1969. 9,000 in Sunday school. And so many others that in the Ohio region was Tom Malone. Dr. Tom Malone's college, Midwestern, had a powerful impact in Ohio Valley. A lot of great churches there. I've not kept up with those churches, but it just was amazing what had happened. So let me talk to you about leadership. Number one, a leader must be a laborer, not a worker. Let me say it again. If you go to Matthew chapter 8 and read the latter part of that verse, last 3 or 4 verses, you'll see what I'm talking about. Pray the Lord of the harvest for laborers, not workers. So what's the difference? A laborer owns the business. The worker just works there. The worker works from 8 to 5, 7 to 3, where it punches in, punches out, and goes home. The laborer lives and dies with it 24/7. And God said, you pray the Lord of the harvest for laborers, not workers. We don't need workers. We need laborers. That's what's wrong. We want more days off than we want on. And we don't like hard preaching. We don't like hard-driven leaders. But we like it for football teams. You don't mind that for Alabama. You don't mind that. I wouldn't mind it for Michigan State. I wish they'd asked me for their help. But I'm just saying, a leader must be a laborer, not a worker. And there's a difference. Labor 24/7 too. Internally motivated. A leader must be internally motivated. There's internal motivation and external motivation. We need both, by the way. Intrinsic, extrinsic. We need that. We need policemen. The way I drive, we need policemen. We need Romans 13. We need political chain of command. We've got to have it. Got to have mayors. You got to have chief of police. Got to have all of it. The courts and the court system, and governors and president and so on and so forth. We've got to have all of that. But a real leader, Jesus said, if they tell you to go a mile, go a mile. It was Roman law. Roman soldier carried his pack and he spotted you in the field. Said, come on, carry it. You had to, you had to. Jesus said something different, though. He said, I want you to go 2 miles. Think about it. Here's a guy in the field trying to feed his family. This Roman soldier there, take my pack. I want you to go with me. He had to go 1 mile. That's 1 mile out, 1 mile back. That's 2 miles. But Jesus said, I want you to go 2 miles. Brother Howes had a sermon he preached on it called the Happy Mile. He said, I want you to go 2 miles. Well, what does that mean? You go 1 mile, and the guy says, okay, you did your, no, I want to keep going with you. I bet he drove that guy nuts about Christ and preaching to like a Carl Hatch. But so he goes to the 2nd mile. Well, wait a minute. That's 2 miles out. That's 2 miles back. That's 4 miles versus 2 miles. Now, I'm just saying to you that had been internal. Jesus did not have a law that made you go the 2nd mile. Had to be internal. My wife's never had a ticket, speeding ticket, accident, never. I hate her. I hate a spiritual woman, but never has. And she was set, when she was used to drive, she'd set the cruise at 25 miles an hour, and that's it. If it was 35, she'd set the cruise at 35. She never fretted about speeding and getting a ticket. Never worried her, never bothered her. Me, I'm under grace, not the law, but I keep looking behind every bush. But I said, number one, talking about leaders, must be laborers, not workers, must be internally motivated, must be teachable. Brother Howes was teachable. When you're teachable, you're reachable. We used to go, and I preached with him 22 years, not every week, but 22 years. And was with him the last time he preached in Monterrey, Mexico. Teachable. But I saw him pick up things at churches and throw it in the back of his Bible. And when I got my nerve up, I said, what are you doing? Oh, he said, I'm collecting ideas. And I'm going to go back and put it in a book and sell it back to him. And he did at pastor school. Talking about leadership. Leaders must be laborers, not workers. Must be internally motivated, not externally. External's fine. I need that pastor school kick in the britches. You needed that soul winning kick in the britches. Number 3, you got to be teachable. Number 4, you got to be a survivor. When Brother Howes was, it seemed like, was down for the count, I was with Dr. Lee Robertson preaching in Louisiana. And he said to me, Jack's going to be fine. He said, Jack's a survivor. Jack's a survivor. I've never forgot that statement. He said, Jack's a survivor. I would never call him Jack, but he did. He said, Jack's a survivor. And he was. Lee Robertson was a survivor. Tom Malone was a survivor. Curtis Hudson was a survivor. Lester Roloff was a survivor. I mean, on and on you could go. So I said, number 1, must be a laborer, not a worker. Must be internally motivated. Must be teachable. And must be a survivor. And number 5, must be a visionary. Now, the people perish for lack of vision, not the leader. It's the people that suffer. So a pastor who has a vision and is a visionary has got to pass it to the people, give them the vision that he has. And if he can do that, there's no telling what he could do. The people at Longview Baptist Temple bought into it. Bless their hearts. At 400, when I went there in 1980, it split down to 159 in 1981. But the people that were left, they said, yes, this is the way to go. This, winning souls, baptizing everybody. Yes, this is it. This is it. And we did it. And we did it. God blessed. 3 decades. Every Sunday, people saved and baptized. Every Sunday without fail. So I said, we're talking about leaders. Leadership must be laborers, not workers. Must be internally motivated. Now, external, we need the external. Don't get me wrong, but you've got that internal motivation. Next, you got to be teachable. Got a survivor. Lee Robertson said, Jack's a survivor. Number 5, a visionary, where the people get the vision. Next, predictable. Predictable. There's not. Can I meddle a little bit here? Can I? We made our college students shave and shine their shoes and dress up, not down. And Brother Howes was predictable. Lee Robertson was predictable, that double-breasted suit. Curtis Hudson was predictable. All these men were predictable. And I worry about these young guys. They got a goatee, you look like a goat. And you just, you don't shave, you don't dress up. Maybe I'll play baseball or football in the front yard or something like that. Maybe you shouldn't wear a tie and a white shirt. But you need to be careful about bringing God down to man. We need to bring man up to God. That's why you got to have the new songs, and you've got to have you don't call it a worship team, but everybody knows it's a worship team. You get the same, and they sing songs you never even heard before in your life. And I like the tried and true hymns, to be honest with you. So we're talking about leaders. Leadership must be a laborer, not a worker, internally motivated, teachable, a survivor, visionary, predictable, a man of his word. Keep your word. Keep your word. Keep your word. When I retired, the church gave me their word to take care of Mrs. Gray and I with retirement. They did not do it. They did not keep their word. Don't trust anybody that will keep their word. You've got to keep your word. And by the way, then somebody started saying that I sued Longview Baptist Temple, biggest lies I've ever been told. All you got to do is go down to Gregg County. Every lawsuit's filed right there. Everybody knows it. But why in the world? And so there were people that turned on me. They just wouldn't keep their word, period. Wouldn't keep it. And by the way, no deacon's going to tell me I can have an online college or can't have an online college. You can forget that. So I'm talking about leaders. Must be laborers, not workers. Must be inwardly motivated, teachable, a survivor, a visionary, predictable, a man of his word, and a man who lives by a schedule. Schedule, the pastor, deacons don't tell the pastor what to do, shouldn't. But his schedule ought to be his boss. And let his schedule, I'm retired now. What in the world am I doing traveling all over get up 3 o'clock every Saturday morning, going somewhere for 3 days, worrying about my wife and then flying back. And to survive, to keep going, you have to keep going. But live by a schedule. Nobody tells me what to do. I ought to be in Florida on a shuffleboard court and a pair of Bermuda shorts. Get that out of your head. But live by a schedule. Next, have discernment. That's the last point I'm going to touch on. Discernment. It is direction that you ought to look at before you decide to associate with someone. Direction, not distance, but direction. Someone may have a bigger ministry than you have, but they're going the wrong direction. Contemporaries can only see as far as you see. So don't let contemporaries run your life. Peer pressure never goes away. I tell about raising kids. Peer pressure, parent pressure, pulpit pressure have all got to be going the same direction to have hope. I'm not saying it's 100% for sure for bad company. But I'll tell you one thing, it's proved itself through the years. Now, when you're on your own, you're the pastor, you can choose who to run with, who not to run with. But be careful, because direction tells everything. And when you tie your wagon to somebody going the wrong direction, you're going to end up in the wrong direction. And contemporaries, you go back and listen to some of those old sermons. Get hold of Jack Hyles' library and go back and listen to those old sermons. And you can get one every day on your phone, listen to it. Or how about reading their books again? How about that? I'm just saying to you, there's discernment. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to have discernment. There's a man who has a big church, but he constantly wants me to come preach for him. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. He cracks the door just a little bit. He's in the left turning lane with his turn signal on, but he hadn't turned yet. But I worry for him. I'm not going to sacrifice young preachers that are looking to me by me attaching to them. I'm not going to do it. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how many books you've written. It doesn't matter to me. It's the direction that you're going. And having that discernment is essential for somebody to be the proper leader and to provide leadership. God bless you. Thank you for joining me today. We'll join you every Friday, Lord willing, 3 o'clock Central Time. Have a great day soul winning tomorrow. Get people saved, line them up for Sunday school on Sunday. God bless you. Have a great weekend.